Here we go, another Rapid React episode of Locked On 49ers. 49ers victorious over the Seattle Seahawks 27-7 in week 2. Tons to get into about this game, namely the Trey Lance injury, Jimmy Garoppolo replacing Trey Lance, update on the season-ending injury for Trey Lance here in week 2. We've got game balls to give out for the 49ers win, as well as jump into the live chat coming up right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. Thanks for making this your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their prize pick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Final score 27-7. San Francisco 49ers thoroughly dominating the Seattle Seahawks in week 2, and that score could have been even much bigger with some drives that ended in field goals that could have been touchdowns, Croc. The big story here with this game was Jimmy Garoppolo replacing Trey Lance. Trey Lance with, now we know, a broken lower leg. Thought it was maybe an ankle injury, according to Adam Schefter. Season-ending surgery coming for Trey Lance on a broken lower leg. So we're going to put a pin on that first. I want to talk about what happened in this game after the Trey Lance injury. And then, of course, we have to cover Trey Lance's injury, what this means for the 49ers going forward. But just as far as this game against the Seattle Seahawks, it was nice to see the 49ers come out and remind everybody who the better team was. And that's really my takeaway from this game, because the score could have been worse than 27-7, I think, for the Seahawks. The 49ers were like, oh, guess what? Yeah, Seahawks, nice win against Russell Wilson. I'm sure that was fun for you, but you came into our house. We're a better team. Doesn't matter if it's windy. Doesn't matter if it's raining. We're better, and you had no chance on Sunday.
I think one of my big things heading into this game, right, and kind of remember the Bears game, remember watching Seattle against the Denver Broncos and how those games kind of played out. I thought the 49ers beat themselves in Chicago, and I thought Denver Broncos beat themselves playing against Seattle Seahawks. And the 49ers, it was definitely an opportunity to play a cleaner game. And when you go out there and you play that brand of game where you have one penalty, which even then I think was kind of questionable. You have zero turnovers, but you took the ball away. I think if the 49ers continue to play like that, they're going to win a lot of games. And it was just fun to see them play a nice, clean game.
Yeah, it was very clean, and they used a little bit of everything, right? There was plays by the defensive line, the second level, the third level of the defense. There was plays by the running game, the passing game, multiple pass catchers, multiple players running the football. So it was definitely a team win. It was a pretty clean game for the 49ers, and Robbie Gould had no problem in the kicking game, except for that one blocked kick by Tariq Woolen that ended up not really hurting the 49ers too bad. And obviously that's not on the kicker. That was just a nice play by an athletic, long defender for the Seahawks. And maybe, something they can clean up in that protection for those kicks. But Croc, we got to start with Jimmy Garoppolo, who entered the game for Trey Lance after Trey's injury early, and same Jimmy G as we always saw. I like that he did take the one deep shot, though, to Danny Gray. And then at the end of the game, giving a shot for his guy to make a play with Brandon Ayuk and getting the penalty, because it's not always about completing those passes. It's letting your guy make a play. And it's not only, and that was obviously going to be a free play because of the offsides by the Seattle Seahawks. But I liked seeing him try the ball deep a couple of times, getting the ball out quick as he normally does. It wasn't an amazing line, but 13 of 21 passing, 154 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, which is key, and even got himself into the end zone on a little QB sneak. So overall, same old Jimmy, right? Did you see anything different? Maybe even a little bit of playing with house money, Jimmy Garoppolo, and playing a little bit free. I liked what I saw from Jimmy in this game.
Yeah, I think the thing I want to talk about first, and you talked about the deep shots, right? And he threw several downfield, giving his guys an opportunity. But, one of my biggest gripes with the 49ers offense over the last few years with Jimmy Garoppolo kind of leading the team is the lack of deep shots. And a lot of times, more things happen good for you than bad when you throw the ball down the field. You get penalties. A couple of times you underthrew Brandon Ayuk, but it doesn't matter because they gain those penalty yardage, right? And one time it set them up for a touchdown on the 1 yard line. So the 49ers one of the least they take the least amount of deep shots in the NFL. It's really good to see him push the envelope down the field. Even early in the game on a fourth down play, I think there was a third down play where he threw downfield to Brandon Ayuk. There was a fourth down play to Danny Gray. They didn't get it early on, but just pushing the envelope to where maybe it kind of backs off defenders. I thought that was probably one of my better things I took away from Jimmy Garoppolo's game. Outside of that, and I know you're not on Twitter right now. Everyone knows you're hacked. All right? Your Twitter account is hacked. You have no access to it. A lot of people have messaged me. Do you know Peacock's Twitter account is hacked? Yes, I know Peacock's Twitter account is hacked. But I saw a lot of people talking about Kyle Shanahan's play calling and, it's conservative. Jimmy Garoppolo. And they're saying this and that. And I got to tell people, man, like, pause for a second. Calm down for a second. This Jimmy Garoppolo, whatever. And I mean, some of the things don't look that much different, I guess you could say, but just in the sense of kind of the flow. And I know early on he started off really hot, then he kind of sizzled down. He has not practiced really with the team, especially as being the guy. He has not been the guy for the 49ers. He just got a playbook like last week. They have no game plan. The whole game plan was centered around Trey Lance, what he does well, and that's what they were working on building off of. There was nothing for Jimmy Garoppolo. So when he gets inserted into the game, they don't have anything for him. And let's say maybe, Kyle Shanahan knows, hey, man, I can call this play for Jimmy. I can call that play. Well, none of the other players have been working on that. None of the other offensive linemen, the receivers, the running backs, you got some new guys in there, some tight ends that maybe haven't played as much. Like, those guys haven't been working on those things, so you can't call those plays. So I think on one hand, you had Kyle Shanahan and kind of Jimmy Garoppolo kind of playing with a hand tight behind their back and just trying to figure out how to hold on. But again, I saw a lot of people talking about Kyle Shanahan and play calling, etc. I didn't mind it for the circumstances.
Yeah, maybe even Jimmy Garoppolo looking a little extra athletic out there after he was pretending to be Justin Fields last week in practice and pretending to be Geno Smith in practice and running the scout team. But you're right, Croc. Like the game plan wasn't put in for Jimmy Garoppolo today. It was put in for Trey Lance. And I wonder if that was why the red zone play calling was that way. There was a little zone read, or I don't know if there was I don't know if Jimmy meant to hold on to that ball or you wanted to hand it off, and then they went right back to him and he ended up plunging in with the QB sneak for the touchdown. We've seen Jimmy Garoppolo be decent on those QB sneaks, and he's had a few rushing touchdowns in his career. But I mean, play calling is there's really nothing play calling wise that you could talk about with Kyle Shanahan this game once Jimmy Garoppolo was put into the game, because first of all, what they did worked, and you got to play a little conservative in a game where you have the lead, right? And so go win the football game is the key. So I didn't have any problems with the game calling, the game plan and the play calling once Jimmy Garoppolo was in the game. And I thought Jimmy looked pretty crisp for not getting a training camp and not playing all off season long, except for right when the season started, and not having a playbook. And the ball came out quick, and I think the ball came out quicker than with Trey Lance, right? Like it was a pretty stark contrast. Oh yeah, this is what Jimmy Garoppolo's offense looks like. He sees it quick, gets it out quick.
Oh, I mean, I guess you could say just in general, yeah, but that Trey Lance, he only threw a couple passes. They were both really quick decisions.
Right. I'm not saying it was like, it wasn't like okay. Trey was like, oh my God, Trey Lance is horrible and holds on to the ball way too long or anything like that. But it was just more like, oh yeah, I've been a little while, forgot what Jimmy looked like running the offense, and it looked like Jimmy. Yeah.
And that's the tough thing too. And I know we're going to get into Trey Lance, but he started out the game and made nice throw wide open, right? Brandon Ayuk, he's open in the flat. You hit him. It was timing. He dropped back, ball's out, good. And then the next time he went to throw a ball, it was a play action, and they didn't bite, right? They had two guys running in his face, so he had to kind of get rid of it. But then the next time he completed a pass, because he completed 2 out of 3 passes, it was a slant route. He had the blitz right in his face. He didn't kind of shy away from the contact. He didn't try to spin out of it. It's just, all right, I see this guy. He's a free runner. I know he's going to hit me. And he threw the ball and completed it. So that's tough for him. You want to see him start to progress in things like that, getting the ball out of his hands quicker, knowing where to go. And you start to see him taking those steps, and then it's over.
I thought we saw that in week 1 too. He's not quite as quick as Jimmy, or he's not, Drew Brees getting the ball in 2.3 seconds. But I thought his decision making was pretty quick in the first game too, especially when the weather was okay. And then later, obviously, things got a little bit weird in that Chicago Bears game. So development happening for Trey Lance. It was happening. Now that development is stalled. We've got to talk about the Trey Lance injury next, and we've got to ask the question, Croc: is Trey Lance's injury on Kyle Shanahan? We'll get to that next. We will get to the game balls here and some more key plays and performances from week 2 in the 49ers win over the Seattle Seahawks. PrizePicks would have been fun for anybody rooting for the 49ers, maybe picking rushing yards for Jeff Wilson. You would have had the over on the PrizePick projections there, maybe the under on just about everything on the Seattle Seahawks offense. And it's fun. Daily fantasy. Go play Monday Night Football if you want. There's more games to be played all season long. It's daily fantasy made easy, and it is super fun at PrizePicks. All you do is pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than the PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on that entry. No competing against other people. It's not some big pool of fantasy football players. It's just you versus the projections available at PrizePicks. And PrizePicks offers projections on any sport, not just football. Of course, NFL and college football, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, PGA, golf, tennis, motorsports, contact sports, even disc golf and cricket and esports as well. So you can find it and you can play daily fantasy sports any old time. That's why they call it daily fantasy. Forget those year-long leagues. You can play every day with PrizePicks. Entries are easy, made in 60 seconds or less, and withdrawals are safe and fast. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks gives you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks gives you $50 to play with. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Myself and former NFL scout Matt Williamson breaking down the entire league daily. And, of course, Croc doing the Locked On NFL Draft podcast daily right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Okay, Croc, when it comes to Trey Lance, and as reported just a few minutes ago by Adam Schefter, a season-ending injury, broken lower leg. So I don't know if that's ankle, upper ankle, if it's actually, what is it, the tibia, fibula, one of those lower leg bones. Somebody in the chat, let me know what my my biology is here. I need my wife, the physical therapist, to let me know what could be broken there for Trey Lance. But it's a broken leg, and he's done for the year. This is now back to Jimmy Garoppolo. It is Jimmy Garoppolo's team, and you have to ask the question. I've seen it in the chat here multiple times. In fact, I think most of the people have been arguing about it about the whole time we've been doing the podcast. And here is the question. Is it on Kyle Shanahan? Mike here says it's definitely on Kyle. We've got others that say you cannot blame Kyle. I've seen multiple people in the chat go back and forth. I have not been on Twitter because that account was hacked, unfortunately. But I'm sure that was just nonstop throughout the game, if you blame Kyle or not. And we have talked about it, Croc, before. We talked about it this week leading up to the game. You need to be able to run the ball with your running backs, not to get your quarterback hit 13 times in the game. And he was already hit 4 times before he got injured in this game and had 3 pass attempts. So he's getting hit a lot. And if you get hit a lot in the NFL, you're going to be injured. And that's always been my contention, which is why I thought that guys like Debo should be used less at running back, more at wide receiver. And you're going to have some scrambles where you're going to run. You're going to get sacked a few times if you're a quarterback. You need those QB sneaks at your disposal. So if you're running too many other plays that's getting your quarterback hit on top of those, that's where I start to have a little bit of a problem. Football players get injured, right? Can you put this injury specifically on Kyle Shanahan, Croc?
Well, okay, so the two things here on this specific play, from what I remember, it looked like a zone read or read option. So it looked like Trey Lance actually had the option to give. So, it's not Kyle telling him. Now, maybe, the defense dictated him keeping it and running it straight. We watched Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks for years where they really mostly kept him on the outside, right? There weren't the read options where, all right, you have a guy going this way, let me fake it to him, and I'm just going to run straight up the middle. Also, Trey Lance ran a few times, and a couple of them were up the middle. So it was like, man, it worked here, it worked here. Oh, man, then you see him kind of on the ground in pain. That's tough. I think part of it, as far as like just the play calling in general, has to do more with where Trey Lance is in his development. Where it's like, okay, what does he do well? Well, I know he runs the ball well. He does these things well. Let's get him the ball, in space, pick up some 5 yards, 6 yards. The tough thing, though, is, the more you use him as kind of a battering ram, like you said, the more it opens him up to injury. And that's what happened. So it's tough. I'd say, Trey Lance, a guy who ran for, 1,200 yards in college, and that was what he did. He ran up the middle a lot, and they did some of the same things. I'd say it's more unfortunate than just, I'm going to blame Kyle or Trey Lance.
There's nuance to it. There's definitely nuance. Mike says that Croc was tiptoeing around the answer. Look, you can't say yes.
Okay, so yeah, it's just that's where he's at in his development, in the sense of like, you're not asking him to drop back 30 times a game and throw the ball. Like, at least, ideally, that's not what you want to do. So what are you going to do? Well, we're gonna utilize some of the things that he does do well, and that is run the ball. So I guess you could say, oh, it's Trey Lance, it's your fault because this is where you're at in your development. I don't know. Like,
that's why there's context needed. That's why there's no clear answer, and you're going to have to run the football. So there's a chance you get hit. But the thing for me has always been, it's the amount of times. It's the amount of times you spin that roulette wheel, right? Because eventually it's going to come up injury. And then when it does come up injury, how bad is that injury when you spin that wheel, right? And so the more often you spin the wheel, the better the odds are that you're going to hit on that injury. So that's where I thought the answer, look, this is the answer. Is Kyle Shanahan to blame? Yes, partially. Is the game of football to blame? Yes, mostly, because guys get hurt. It could have happened on one play if he only got hit one time all season, but I think he was taking too many hits, and he was already starting to take too many hits in this game. And that was going to, if he didn't get hurt, I would have come on here and said, why is he getting hit so much? Right? Because that's what you don't want to happen. So you can't say that you couldn't see it coming if you're going to use your quarterback as a running back, because we all know the injury rate is 100% for running backs. And so is Kyle to blame? Yes, partially. I mean, that's the answer to me. But then it goes, you go down the rabbit hole of, okay, well, what does Kyle do differently? He's trying to win a football game. If the best way to win a football game is to use his athletic quarterback running the football sometimes, then you got to do that. So did you pick the wrong quarterback? Should you have played him more last year so that he could have been a better passer and you wouldn't even want to risk running him because he's so good throwing the football? Would he have got hurt last year even more if he played more last year, because he would have been running the ball more last year like this year? So it's a really tough question to answer. Overall, it's just really unfortunate. And it's unfortunate because Trey Lance got hurt pretty quickly last year as well, that we learned, and we didn't really know at the time. And now in very few games again this year, he's gotten hurt. So he's really never been able to last more than 1.5 games in a season in his NFL career. So that's another worry. Is this just going to be something that keeps happening for Trey Lance? And he's going to have the injury prone tag now, right or wrong. So it's just really unfortunate all the way around for Trey Lance. And now his development gets put on hold. And guess what happens next year? The 49ers are a Super Bowl contender. Is Trey Lance ready to play for the 49ers, right? That'll be the big question, just like it was this year, because he's only played one more game than he did coming into this year. And guess what? That was the question already.
I think part of the tough thing here is the expectations on the 49ers. So trying to figure out how to call plays to where you get a win no matter what, right? Like heading into this game, I was talking about Deebo Samuel getting 12, 13, 14 carries. Why was I saying that? Was because I feel like that gives the 49ers the best chance to win. Not so much that that's the best chance or best thing for Deebo Samuel. So, as it pertains to Trey Lance, if you don't want to use him as a battering ram, you have to almost put yourself in a position to where winning isn't the most important thing, right? Like his development is. So kind of go back to 2021, week 1. If Trey Lance was your starter then you can live more with the ups and downs of wherever he was as a passer and continue to build on that without the oh man, I gotta run him because it's if I don't win this game, like, oh man, we got a Super Bowl roster, right? Like you're coming off of 6 wins. So I think that's the hard part, trying to figure that out. Like the balance between I have to win, he does these things well, and he can. We're talking as if he just can't throw the ball. Like he can rip it, but it's also he does these things well too. So, and you probably have to do those things more than you ideally would like to because you are trying to win, as opposed to just, you know what, we want to just develop him and get him all the reps throwing the ball and really build on that aspect of his game and get him to where he's, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes out there or something, right? Like he needs the reps to do that. So regardless of what happens in this game, we're going to build that to where we're better for it in the long run.
And I think when it comes to quarterback runs too, I think the scrambles are the more back-breaking types of runs. And I get trying to get that defensive end to stay, to play honest by having a little zone read there and showing it and giving it. But get like you said with multiple quarterbacks, obviously, but in the past with Russell Wilson is, when he does carry the ball, you're getting him out in space a little bit more and you're not taking him inside. And that's where it gets a little bit dicey for me. But again, this injury could have happened to any player on a football field on any given play too. So there's a whole bunch of luck involved with things like this, but you are much more likely to get hurt when you're getting hit. And that's why I don't want my quarterback getting hit pretty much ever, if that's possible. Right. David says, I guess Jimmy is no longer the highest paid backup. Now he's a supremely bargain starter. That's very true. And this is a big point here. And this is where we're at. Now's the time to rally behind the 49ers quarterback. We know what we're getting with Jimmy, and the 49ers can win a lot with Jimmy Garoppolo. They won in this game with Jimmy Garoppolo. His teammates clearly liked him. It looked like they were having a good time on the field winning a football game. I'm sure a bunch of teammates are really upset about the Lance thing, but they know that they can rally around Jimmy Garoppolo and win a bunch of football games. So, like, Super Bowl competitors, that's still on. The 49ers are in a lot better shape right now than the Dallas Cowboys are because they brought Jimmy Garoppolo back.
Did you hear what JT O'Sullivan said about 49ers are Super Bowl contenders and, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, that whole dynamic?
No, I didn't, but I want you to tell me that next because we've got to get to our latest sponsor, Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the United States, Canada, and the UK. You can book a spacious SUV or minivan. You want to go on that family road trip, get a big car, pack the whole family in and go. If you want a classic or luxury car, you have a special event, you want to show off to some of your buddies, maybe a birthday or a holiday or something like that, you can get a classic car from one of the many, many Turo hosts in your area, or find an affordable economy car. You're on a budget, you want to get from point A to point B, and you need some wheels. You can find that at Turo as well. Test drive that new electric vehicle or some car you've had your eye on. You can actually have an opportunity to hang out in the car and spend some time in it and drive it and know what you're buying and see if it fits into your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Ditch those boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. All right, we'll get to those game balls here in a minute. I want to talk a little bit about the running game and what we saw from the 49ers defensive line and 2022 Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa. But first, Croc, what did JT O'Sullivan, 49ers legend, say about that Super Bowl window and the 49ers and Jimmy G?
He said something that I think we've said. I know I've said it for sure. And it was good to hear somebody else from the outside say it. And not that I needed, someone to kind of confirm what my thoughts were, but he was on the live stream with my guy Jesse from Last Second Sports. Shout out to Jesse. And someone sent in the super chat and said, who gives the 49ers the better chance to win more games? Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance? And he said, well, and this is J.T. Sullivan responding, he said, I'd rephrase that. I don't think it's about who gives you the opportunity to win more games. It's about who gives you the better chance to win the Super Bowl. And he said, that's Trey Lance. And what I've been saying is, we need to get Trey Lance to be the best version that he can be so you have the best opportunity to win the Super Bowl. That's what I've been saying, right? And his response was, we know who Jimmy is. We've seen what Jimmy is. He's had opportunities to do it, and you need things to be a little bit more ideal, which is something I've been saying as well, right? Whereas Trey Lance, yes, he has a ways to go in the sense of being more consistent in certain areas, but the sooner you get him to that point, your team is better for it, 100%. Like that is without a doubt, right? Because Jimmy does some things very well. We have seen the best version of Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad version. That is a quarterback that has won a lot of games. That has been a quarterback who has gone to the Super Bowl. That has been a quarterback who has played in the NFC Championship game. That has been a quarterback who in both of those big games had 10-point leads, right? So clearly, Jimmy, we know, right? When Trey Lance went down and he's hurt and he's on the ground, in my head I said, like, it wasn't like any sense of panic. Like, 49ers going to the playoffs. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is good. He's a good quarterback. Tough thing is winning that big one and knowing more so of what Jimmy Garoppolo is. So his response was interesting, but it kind of confirmed some of my thoughts. And I think people just made me feel like I was crazy for thinking that way. But I'm like, man, you're better off. The sooner you get him up to par, talking about Trey Lance, the better your chances are of winning a Super Bowl. And clearly, like, yeah, is Trey Lance is there day one right now, week 1, week 2, whatever? No. But can he be closer to that by week 16, 17, 18? And I thought that was the goal. And unfortunately, we won't see that.
Right. Trey Lance is the ceiling play. The Kansas City Chiefs were winning games with Alex Smith. They were a playoff team, right? But the ceiling was raised. The Super Bowl window became an actuality and large when you get a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes in there. And I don't know if Trey Lance is going to become Patrick Mahomes, but that's what you're trying to do, is get him to that level, and you raise the entire ceiling of the whole thing. So I have no problem with any of that. And I do think, and look, you can win a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, the 49ers were close. There were some very small things that needed to happen, and the 49ers do have a Super Bowl under Jimmy Garoppolo. If Jaquiski Tartt catches an interception from Matthew Stafford, were the 49ers hoisting the Lombardi last year, right? So they can still win a Super Bowl with Jimmy, but clearly if Trey Lance becomes what the 49ers thought he can be, then the ceiling is absolutely raised. And it's a great point, something we've talked about, and he's got to play to get there.
That's tough, knowing that he's hurt for a year.
Right. Can you win now and have Trey Lance play and develop a quarterback? Maybe that's something that the 49ers didn't think out quite enough when they were moving up in the draft and figuring out what they wanted to do with their draft strategy, because it's just very difficult. And we've seen them try to walk that tightrope, and it's been awkward. And now they've just completely fallen off that tightrope because of on the Trey Lance end of things, because now his development halts again completely, but they haven't fallen off the tightrope as far as a Super Bowl window or winning football games, because they kept Jimmy Garoppolo and they were able to have him. And that move looks amazing now. And maybe that was part of it with Kyle Shanahan knowing that Trey Lance was going to take hits. And he thought that the benefit of having Jimmy Garoppolo around was too big, because he knew of the injury risks for his young quarterback that was going to be taking a lot of hits this year.
Yeah, that's tough. And again, I see the injury. First thing I came to my mind was the development aspect of it.
Right. That's the hardest part for sure. Because now that's an entire lost season minus one game in the rain and another, couple of plays in the practice week leading up to the Seattle Seahawks that has lost development for a guy who's only played a couple of games since 2019 now in Trey Lance.
Yeah, and it's tough too. I see some people, Trey Lance wasn't this and that. He wasn't anything special. Trey Lance did a lot of really good things. I saw Jimmy Garoppolo attempt a Trey Lance throw today, and it was off, right? That throw we made a big deal about last week, layer throw over two defenders under the safety coming on. Well, Jimmy attempted that today to Brandon Ayuk, and it wasn't close, right? Like, that's a special throw. So when you start talking about what these guys can do and what they can be, and you attempt throws like that, you make those, and it really made it kind of look routine. Like, that's the difference we're talking about. throwing the ball down the field. The 49ers are stretching the field with him. You started to see it, but, you just need to see it more consistently. Well, how do you get more consistent? Playing. And now he's robbed of that. Now I say robbed, but he had the injury. So you won't be able to see that.
But we won't be able to see Trey Lance on the field until 2023 now for the 49ers. And some folks saying that the Trey Lance era is over. It's definitely not over. Dude's going to be 23 years old when next season starts. It's definitely not over for Trey Lance.
It's tough.
But it's tough. He gets put in a more difficult situation. He's got to overcome for sure. Oh, and we get to talk about whether or not the 49ers should have just re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo in the offseason. That's going to be a whole bunch of fun. But we won't talk about that now. We'll talk about Jimmy W. in a big win for the San Francisco 49ers. A couple of notes here. I loved seeing the running game with Jeff Wilson look legit. 4.7 yards per carry. He was running hard, 18 carries for 84 yards. There wasn't a ton of big plays. He had a 16-yarder. He didn't get in the end zone, but he looked much more explosive, and probably the elements had something to do it, but looked a lot more explosive, and it looked like there were some more holes there. And I thought the 49ers just up front, both offensive, defensive line, really played well in this game, and that was probably where this game was won and lost.
The offensive line, man, they were moving bodies. I thought right away you see Jeff Wilson come in, he was running hard, he looked decisive, and I'm like, okay, let's go. Then you see the next running back up is tight of his price, and that was one of the things I saw. I mean, we know the roster politics and things like that, so I thought he would get kind of the first crack at it, and I thought, for the most part, he looked well. There were some times where he was kind of running up off his lineman's back. Maybe he has to learn to be a little bit more patient, but that's easy for me to say. I'm not the rookie getting your first carries in the NFL, in the regular season in a big time matchup, between an opponent that, you've been having trouble beating. So I think there was a lot that had to do with maybe him rushing a little bit. So be a little bit more patient, but it was really good to see just the running backs in general. I think I looked up in the third quarter, 49ers had 150 rushing yards. Obviously, Deebo Samuel had a lot to do with that, with some of his big runs that he ripped off as well, but did very well on the ground.
My first game ball goes to defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans. A couple of sacks from Nick Bosa. They were living in the Seahawks backfield a lot of times. 2.5 yards per carry for both of Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker looks really good, by the way, but there was just nowhere to go against this 49ers defense, and they cleaned up the penalties, and that's what you want to see from a coaching staff. Fix the things that you can fix, which is killing yourself, and I thought the 49ers got out-coached a little bit in week one, and I thought DeMeco Ryans did a hell of a job, and that defense was just unbelievable, really, in this game, and pretty much pitched a shutout. Kevin Givens, 3 tackles for loss. Talanoa Hufanga all over the place, defending passes, caused an interception. He got in the backfield and made a play. Dre Greenlaw looked like he was playing for his job a little bit after a really bad game last week, and he led the team in tackles with 8 tackles. He had a tackle for a loss as well, so loved what I saw from the defensive side of the ball.
Defense, they were flying around, and I messaged my brother and some of my guys in our group chat. I was like, I think 49ers might have the best defense in the league. And then I had to pump the brakes. I didn't hit send because I started thinking about it. I'm like, you faced, young Justin Fields. He's still young, and it was an torrential downpour. And then you faced Geno Smith, who, no offense, Geno, that's my guy, but
right.
Not exactly who they'll see, next week. Russell Wilson, who was terrible today, but Russell Wilson. Then after that, you got Matthew Stafford. A few weeks after that, you got Patrick Mahomes and guys. So it gets a lot more difficult, but so far, I'd say when they are really challenging themselves, and there were times where I thought, why are they playing a little soft? I get it. They're, before the half, they let them kind of move down the field or whatever. But outside of that, man, you got these physical corners, especially Travarius Ward. Let him be physical and aggressive with these guys at the line of scrimmage. I didn't see a lot of that.
I loved the matchup with DK Metcalf against Emmanuel Mosley is one of the key matchups we highlighted. That was a really fun one. Emmanuel Mosley definitely up for the challenge. There's some wins on both sides. Emmanuel Mosley got there a little early a couple times even. He probably could have had an interception if he didn't go for the pass breakup and played through DK. He probably just played the ball, and he might have been gone the other way. But that was a really fun match.
Hold on, man. My bad for cutting you off. I know a fan was like, stop cutting off Peacock. All right, but dude,
I couldn't mute you anytime.
Right. He's going for the ball. Mm-hmm. That's the tough thing. Is when I see the ball in the air and I'm going, and if I make contact with the receiver on my way to the ball, just as if I were a receiver and I'm going to the ball and I bump into a DB on the way to the ball, it's like, dude, like this is my path to the ball to make a play. I hated that call.
Yeah, you have a right to go for the ball like the receiver does, right?
I
If you're a
thought so.
DB. Yeah. But I guess not on that play. Do you think he got there early on the first one that he didn't get flagged for? The pass breakup in the
Bit.
first quarter?
On
Yeah.
on the replay, I think it looks more obvious. In person, I mean, actually, live, it looked a little bit more obvious as well. I thought that looked more obvious than the actual pass interference call.
I know it got called back. The one-handed catch from DK was pretty. It's probably the best play of the day from the Seahawks offense.
Yeah.
Do you have any game balls you would like to give out, Croc, before we go?
Oh, man, yeah. Coach D'Amico Ryans. This is a team that committed a bunch of penalties, and I thought one of the big contributing factors to the 49ers losing against Chicago Bears were third down penalties by the defense. Well, you didn't really see that this time around, right? Now, again, they had the one penalty, but nothing that truly kept drives going, and even when that one that did, they were able to get off the field. So, as a coach who got his guys right, they were all bought in, they were flying around, they were playing physical, they were playing aggressive. He made the necessary adjustments, or whatever he said worked. So I have to give D'Amico Ryans the first game ball.
Game ball for Jimmy G?
Yeah, definitely.
Jimmy
To be
W?
able to come off the bench, no game plan for you, everything schemed around Trey Lance, and your coach is kind of handcuffed with how he can call plays. He came in, went down the field, they scored a touchdown. I mean, that was awesome.
I want to give the entire offensive line a game ball. That was a huge key to this game. The 49ers ran the ball extremely well with both Debo and Jeff Wilson, and there was a few plays here. Tyrion Davis-Price, nice little 20-yarder. He didn't have much room to run beyond that. 1 sack in the entire game for 0 yards. So 0 yards lost on sacks officially for the 49ers offense. Loved seeing that. I'm going to give a game ball to all 5 of them because they weren't great in week 1. And, even Trent Williams didn't play that good of a game in week 1. And so, big bounce back game for a lot of what went wrong last week, I think.
Yeah.
What'd you think about Ty Davis-Price and his first action? He was inactive last week. He was clearly, it was because of special teams, and Jordan Mason did not get a carry again. So, it's obvious that Ty Davis-Price is the running back 2 now to Jeff Wilson. I think Jeff Wilson did enough to be the number 1 running back, but the carries weren't all that different. Like they went to Ty Davis-Price early. He was on the field in the first series of the game. Jeff Wilson had 18 carries for 84 yards. Tyrion Davis-Price had 14 carries, and aside from the 20-yarder, didn't get much going. He only had 13 other rushing yards, averaged 2.4 per carry. But I love that. We had talked about this when we talked about Ty Davis-Price, his scouting report after he was drafted, is that just little subtle lateral wiggle. And he gave it to Quandre Diggs on that 20-yarder where, you think he's going to steamroll you right through the middle of your body, and it kind of just gave him a little bit, which turned it into an easy arm tackle for TDP to break.
He ran hard, and that was really exciting to see. You talked about that subtle movement. I think part of it is safeties don't want to have to tackle a guy head on that's like 6 foot tall, 225 pounds or whatever he is, and is able to kind of be explosive through contact. So exciting to see that again. I think there were times where maybe he rushed it a little bit, but slow to, fast through, learn to run with a little bit more patience. And I think you have a good, nice little 1-2 punch with Jeff Wilson.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us live. 49ers now 1-1, tied for first place in the NFC West, and getting things, I think, right here everywhere but quarterback. And luckily for the 49ers, their backup quarterback can come in and win them a whole bunch of games, as we've seen. So the 49ers still on track for the postseason. Obviously, we'll have more to talk about with Trey Lance and how much of a bummer it is to see him go down and lose so much valuable developmental time in his career. More to talk about with the 49ers offensively, defensively. We'll get into your Twitter questions as well, especially once my account is unhacked and I can access it. By the way, if anybody out there that listens works for Twitter support, can you help a brother out? Because they have been non-helpful so far in that whole situation. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.